People spend years looking for a shortcut, a faster route, a better angle. They're searching for the trick that'll help them skip the hard part. But here's what they don't realize. The hard part is the shortcut. The work is the shortcut. The faster you embrace that, the faster you move forward. It's not a new idea, but it's the one most people keep avoiding. They think that there's got to be an easier way. So they keep looking, they stall, they circle, they start and stop, all because they're trying to find a way around the work. But there is no way around. There's only through. You ever meet someone who's been about to start for the last 3 years? Still talking about the project, still researching the routine, still shopping for the right setup. And meanwhile, someone else, less talented, less prepared, is already moving, already building, already ahead. Not because they knew more, but because they stopped looking for shortcuts and started doing the work. That's what we're talking about here. The work, the representatives, the quiet, unglamorous, uncelebrated effort that actually builds something. The stuff that doesn't look fast, but is. Because every time you skip the search for a shortcut and just do the thing, you're taking the real shortcut, the only one that works. So that's what this seminar is about. Not hacks, not tricks, just truth. The work is the shortcut. And the minute you stop trying to avoid it, you start gaining ground faster than you think. The search for a shortcut usually costs more than just time. It costs momentum. It costs clarity. It costs trust in the process. People think shortcuts save them effort, but what they don't realize is that shortcuts often just send them in circles. They skip the hard part, hoping it'll make things faster, then end up right back at the beginning. You've probably seen it. Someone jumps from one plan to another, one routine to the next. They try the fast fix, the guaranteed method, the secret strategy, but nothing sticks. Because every time it starts to get hard, they bail out and look for something easier. And over time, what could have taken 6 months ends up dragging out for years. It happens in every area. Fitness, business, relationships. Someone wants to lose weight, so they jump on the newest extreme plan. It works for a week, maybe 2, then it falls apart. Why? Because it wasn't built on anything real. No foundation, no consistency, just a shortcut with no structure. And now they've got to start over again. Same in business. People want results without building skill. They want attention without building value. So they buy followers, copy someone else's strategy, throw money at the problem, trying to look successful instead of becoming it. But real growth can't be faked, and eventually the gap shows. Shortcuts usually cost you more because they make you start over. And every time you restart, you lose time, you lose rhythm, you lose belief. It's exhausting. And the longer you stay in that loop, the more you forget what real work even feels like. You become addicted to beginnings, addicted to novelty. But the people who get results, they're addicted to consistency. They're not looking for the easy way. They're just doing the work, quietly, repeatedly. And because of that, they move faster. Because while everyone else is resetting and restarting and reorganizing, they're building. While others are shopping for shortcuts, they're stacking real progress. And that gap, it gets wider every day. If you want to save time, stop skipping steps. If you want results quicker, stop avoiding the foundation. Every skipped rep is a rep you'll have to do later anyway. Every step you cut is a step you'll have to repeat. So instead of trying to bypass the process, own it, walk through it. Because the truth is, doing it the right way once is faster than doing it the wrong way 5 times. So the next time you're tempted by the next shortcut, stop and ask yourself, will this actually move me forward? Or is it just another way to avoid the real work? And if it's the latter, don't take the bait. Go back to the process. Show up again, because the work is still the fastest way through. Shortcuts hide the parts that actually matter. They skip over the struggle, the repetition, the boring stuff. And that sounds appealing until you realize that's where the growth was hiding. That's where the real development was supposed to happen. The shortcut gives you a glimpse of the destination, but it doesn't prepare you to stay there. The work, on the other hand, reveals everything. It shows you where you're weak, where you hesitate, where you cut corners. It doesn't flatter you. It exposes you. And that exposure, that's how you get better. Because now you know what to fix. Now you see what needs to be addressed. And that clarity doesn't come from theory. It comes from doing. You can study how to swing a golf club all day, watch videos, read tips. But the first time you step on the course, reality shows up. The work reveals your grip, your stance, your timing, all the stuff the shortcut skipped. Same in business. You can read about leadership, but until you're in a room with real pressure and real decisions, none of it means much. The doing teaches what the shortcut hides. And that's why people who take shortcuts often feel unprepared when they finally arrive. Because they didn't build the depth. They didn't earn the confidence. They didn't develop the resilience. So the first challenge shakes them. The first bit of adversity sends them backward. Not because they weren't smart, but because they skipped the hard parts. The work builds more than results. It builds understanding. You start noticing patterns. You start reading situations better. You stop guessing because you've lived it. You've earned your instincts. That's the kind of wisdom shortcuts never offer. They give you speed, but not strength. Reach, but not roots. There's a different kind of confidence that comes from doing the reps. The kind that doesn't need to be loud, doesn't need validation, because you've seen what you're capable of under pressure. You've walked through it. You've done it the long way, and now you're strong enough to hold it. And here's the truth. Once you've done the work, the shortcut doesn't even tempt you anymore. Because now you know what it cost you to get here. Now you understand what that effort gave you. Clarity, capacity, composure. And that kind of growth, that never comes from skipping steps. So stop looking for a way around the work. Let the work do what it's meant to do. Refine you, shape you, reveal you, because that's the real shortcut. Not just to getting there, but to staying there. Discipline is what turns the work from a grind into a rhythm. At first, everything takes effort. Every decision feels heavy. You have to push yourself just to start. But if you keep showing up, if you build the habit, eventually the work stops being something you fight through. It becomes something you do automatically. That's the beauty of discipline. It removes the debate. You don't wake up wondering, should I do it today? You already know the answer. The decision's been made. The habit is in place. Now you're not using willpower. You're using structure. And structure is sustainable. Most people waste their energy trying to feel motivated every day. They burn out trying to recreate the perfect conditions. But the people who make the most progress, they stopped relying on mood a long time ago. They built a routine that moves, with or without motivation. And that's why they're consistent. That's why they're steady. That's why they keep gaining ground. Discipline doesn't mean forcing yourself to suffer. It means deciding once and removing the daily friction. You don't think twice about brushing your teeth, you just do it. Why? Because it's part of who you are. That's what the work becomes when discipline takes over. It becomes normal, expected, automatic. And here's what happens when the work becomes automatic. The progress speeds up, not because you're trying harder, but because you're showing up more often. You're stacking more reps. You're compounding consistency. And that kind of rhythm beats intensity every time. I've seen people try to go all in for a few days. Massive push, big effort, total burnout. And then they disappear for 2 weeks. Why? Because they built on hype, not discipline. They used adrenaline, not structure. And adrenaline runs out. But discipline builds something that lasts. It doesn't matter what the goal is. Writing, building, training, creating, the same principle applies. When you do the work consistently, the work gets lighter. Not because the task changed, but because you did. Because your identity shifted. You're no longer trying to do the thing. You've become someone who does the thing. That's the real shortcut. The people who seem like they're always moving forward, they're not superhuman. They're just disciplined. They've eliminated the back and forth. They're not faster, they're steadier. And that steadiness adds up faster than anything else. So if the work still feels heavy, that's okay. Keep going. You're still in the early reps. But every day you show up, you're teaching yourself who you are. And eventually, you won't need to fight yourself to do the work. You'll just do it, because that's what disciplined people do. The early stages of real progress don't feel like progress. They feel slow, unimpressive, repetitive. You're doing the work, but there's no spotlight, no rush of excitement, no big moment, just quiet consistency. And that's why most people walk away. They think if it's working, it should feel faster, it should feel obvious. But the fastest progress, it's usually invisible at first. You plant the seed and nothing happens. You water it, still nothing. Days go by, maybe weeks, and the surface looks unchanged. But underneath, something's happening. Roots are forming. The foundation is setting. That's what real progress looks like in the beginning. Silent, steady, unseen. And that's why it works. Because you're building something that lasts. Most people don't have the patience for that. They want proof now. They want results they can talk about, share, celebrate. And when it doesn't happen in their life, they assume it's not working. So they bail. But the people who stay, the ones who keep showing up, even when it feels like nothing's happening, those are the ones who move faster later. Because while everyone else is starting over again and again, they've been stacking wins quietly. They've been sharpening skills, deepening focus, building momentum. And eventually, that silent progress breaks through the surface. And when it does, it looks like they came out of nowhere. But they didn't. They were working the whole time. They just weren't broadcasting it. That's why real discipline feels slow in the beginning. You're laying bricks, one at a time. No rush, no noise. But those bricks become a wall. That wall becomes a structure. And soon, you've built something solid, something the shortcut crowd will wish they had. Because while they were chasing fast, you were building strong. And once the structure is there, now the speed picks up. Now the gains come faster. Not because it's easier, but because you've built the engine. You've got the foundation. The hard part is done. Now the reps compound. Skills connect. The confidence accelerates. That's the part everyone wants, but few are willing to wait for. You want real speed? Embrace the slow beginning. That's where the edge is. That's where the separation happens. Everyone's motivated at the start, but most people won't stick around when it gets quiet. when it gets dull, when it feels like nothing's happening. But if you do, if you stay long enough for the work to compound, you'll move further, faster, and stronger than you ever imagined. So stop trying to feel fast. Start building deep. Because the fastest progress doesn't look fast. It looks like patience. It looks like repetition. It looks like someone doing the work with no audience. Until one day, they don't need one, because the results speak for themselves. If you want to separate yourself, stop looking at what everyone else is doing and start doing the work they won't. That's how you skip the line. Not by cutting corners, not by gaming the system, but by doing the unglamorous, uncelebrated, often ignored work that actually builds something. Most people quit early. Most people avoid the boring reps. Most people talk more than they build. And that's exactly why doing the work is such a powerful advantage, because it's rare. You don't have to outsmart the entire world. You just have to outlast the people who are still looking for shortcuts. The bar is lower than you think, not because people are lazy, but because they're inconsistent. They start strong, fade fast, and then look for something new. So if you're the one who stays, who keeps showing up when others step out, you start to create separation. Quiet at first, but noticeable over time. Want to stand out at work? Do the part of the job that no one else takes seriously. The prep work, the follow-up, the small details. Everybody wants the spotlight, but few people want the responsibility. You take that on, and you become essential, irreplaceable. Want to grow in your craft? Practice when no one's asking you to. Study when no one's grading you. Improve when nobody's watching. Not for credit, not for attention, just because it's who you are. That mindset, that refusal to wait for permission, moves you ahead faster than talent alone ever could. And it's not about working yourself into the ground. It's about being willing to do what most people won't. The stuff that isn't fun, isn't sexy, isn't rewarded right away, because that's where the edge is. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where the real work happens. While they're skipping steps, you're laying bricks. While they're changing direction, you're building momentum. While they're still talking about starting, you're already deep in the process. And when it clicks, when the results show up, it's not luck. It's not sudden. It's just the compound return of doing the work. And here's the part most people never get to experience: when the work starts to accelerate. When people start asking how you did it. When doors open because you've built credibility. When things that used to be hard now feel automatic. That's the reward for doing the work nobody else was willing to do. So if you're serious about getting ahead, stop looking for the shortcut. Start doing the work. The work that's beneath most people's radar. The work they think is optional. That's your opening. That's your opportunity. And if you take it, you won't just pass them, you'll lap them. Most people will keep searching. Searching for the easier way, the quicker way, the shortcut that skips the sweat. And while they're searching, someone else is just doing the work. No noise, no hype, just consistent, focused action. And that person, they move faster, they build more, they go further, not because they found a secret, but because they stopped looking for one. The work is the shortcut. It always was. Every rep builds strength. Every routine builds structure. Every day you show up, you gain something most people never will: momentum. And that momentum is what moves you forward when others stall. Not luck, not timing, just consistency. You don't need another plan. You don't need another book, another audio tape, another strategy. You need reps. You need rhythm. You need to stop asking how to go faster and start doing what actually moves you. One focused hour of doing the work will take you further than 10 hours of thinking about how to avoid it. And the more you lean into the work, the more it gives you skill, clarity, confidence, speed. Not at first, not in the beginning, but over time. When it starts clicking, when the results start stacking, then you'll understand. This was never about finding a shortcut. It was about becoming someone who didn't need one. So stop searching. Start building. The work is waiting. And the minute you commit to it fully, that's the moment the shortcut begins.